us on the show, TMI. Lovely Monday morning. Well, a major threat to the 2023 election is the insecurity challenges the country is faced with. But the authorities will always assure Nigerians every time the opportunity presents itself, especially as a reaction to an attack, that there is really no cause for alarm, that the security agents are on top of the situation, and rightly so, we're seeing some of those results. But recently, Sheikh Ahmed Gumi has been at the forefront in trying to find a solution to the problem of insecurity, or complicate the problem, as some would say. The reason being that he's of the opinion that if we want to tackle insecurity, we've got to find a political solution. And until we make up our mind to do that, there won't be any way out. I'll have with me, in the studio, Reverend Azake Sheriff. Reverend Azake Sheriff is an author, a pastor, and also a security expert. Many thanks for joining us on the program, Reverend Azake.
Thank you, and viewers, thank you very much for being on ground.
Okay, Christopher Ojekere is a public affairs commentator. He's also a senior special assistant to the state government. Thank you so much for joining us, Chris.
Good morning, sir. Thank you.
Okay, let me begin with Reverend. When an incident happens, the community is thrown into mourning, and then the country, in some sense, is also thrown into mourning, and then statements are made, reactions come forth, and just before the dust generated by that incident settles, another incident happens, and it gives one the impression that nothing seems to be going in terms of responding to the insecurity situation in the country. What are your thoughts along those lines?
Yes, when it comes to insecurity, I think for now, the greatest challenge, as long as Nigeria is concerned, is insecurity. If you listen to our news, read our newspapers, 80% of what is there, it boils down to insecurity. And you talk about, in the morning, you will hear one news of 50 people died. Before we get out from that one, in the evening, you hear another one. And it's like the thing keep on going, like a routine. I think what we have not been able to do is to address insecurity from the grassroots. Because if you keep on cutting a tree from the top, the tree will not die until you have a holistic view on addressing that matter from the grassroots. Because insecurity has its own factor. If we begin to address it from the factor, I think to an extent we'll get a solution. When we are not sincere in the area of addressing security issues, we will also have problem.
Okay, Chris, give me your thoughts along these lines of the seeming hydra-headed nature of the menace of insecurity. You can talk about the Northeast, you can talk about the Northwest, you can talk about the North Central. If it's happening in the Northeast, all attention is there. Then it comes out in the Northwest. And then all attention is there, is in the North Central. And then before you know what's happening, like now, the major region that is the talking point is the Southeast. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would like to stop using geographical delineation to classify it. I would rather use the nature of the type of insecurity we face, because he spoke just now about grassroots, grassroots, so to speak, insecurity.
In finding solutions.
Yes, I think the one that is most worrisome and is putting the country and indeed the international community, under tension is the terrorism and banditry that is ravaging our country. And those geopolitical zones you mentioned now, those are the predominant insecurity situation we have there. I believe very much that part of the unspoken policy, because you see, policies are either written down or they operate by convention. Part of the unspoken policy of this government, seemingly, is to allow insecurity to fester, especially in the northern parts of the country. I say that because why are we talking about security or insecurity? Volumes of books could have been written since 2015 up until now. Experts' opinions have been given. People have come out to tell us very clearly the situation. So I don't think that it's a matter of knowledge. When it started, I remember then, people used to talk about asymmetric war and not knowing the nature of the war. But we've gone beyond that now, from the valuable information and knowledge that is before us. I can assure you, and we all know in this country, that a naval commander, Kunle Olawumi, came out and told us very clearly what the situation was. And he was very direct in his language. He's a retired naval commodore. So he was, I'm talking of somebody who participated in the process of trying to restore security and came out with his evidence. He was invited shortly after by the DSS, and he was not kept in custody. He's a free man today. He's actually the head of the Department of Christland University. He told us very clearly that this government has no intention of stemming the insecurity situation we have in the country. That indeed the government is totally complicit. He warned us, and that was about 2 years ago, that as we are beginning to approach the election, we are going to see more dastardly, more wicked, more unimaginable acts of insecurity, and we are seeing them right now. He told us very clearly, and they are in stated terms, they're in the public domain, they are in conventional media, they're in social media. He told us very clearly that they have about 400 names, and the government has it. He said the police is aware, the DSS is aware, the military is aware. Now they have about 400 names of those who are sponsoring terrorism, and none of them have been brought to book. He told us very clearly that was shortly after the NDA was bombed. That's what got him angry, and he came out shortly after the NDA was attacked. Now, he now started the sequence that cadets from the NDA were adopted not too long from that time. And the funny thing was that when the cadet was released, ransom was paid for cadets to be released. The cadets said where they were taken to were not too far from the NDA. It's a record. And then shortly after that, he said, because the doors of security offices and security, barracks are open to any kind of people who have the intention to breach the security of the country, come in on Friday to hold Juma services, and then they begin to read and study the profile of the security architecture. He went further to tell us that 400 names are with the president, they are with the security agencies, they are with the Inspector General of Police, they are with the DSS, and nobody is charging anybody to call, nobody. So I think there's an unspoken policy. There's a culpability, and I'll mention another name, Karu Baraje. Karu Baraje, who led the NPDP, if you know it those days, came out very clearly to tell us the origin. And the videos and the releases of these bandits that have BBC have been able to go into the forest, what our military and our security forces say they cannot do. BBC went to the forest. I had interviews, I have the videos, I can give you, they are ready to show it on TV here. And they went to the forest to interview. And the people corroborated what Karu said. Kawu Baraje said. Kawu Baraje told us, and it's not only Kawu Baraje who have hinted at that shortly before Lord Jonathan's election, people, northern cabals of the Fulani extraction, had gone out to talk to the Fulani mercenaries that were fighting in Mali and fighting in Chad and other places, and brought them in to say if Jonathan was not going to allow the election to favor Buhari, if Jonathan was not going to submit in the election, then they should make the country ungovernable. Unfortunately, Jonathan got wind of it and came out with the famous statement that his election was not worth the blood of any Nigerian. And so when he read the trend of the election, he quickly put a call to the president and relinquished power to the president. Now those men were here, and I was told that the president said he didn't know them, they should have them to go back. So rather than go back, they went into the forest. And they are saying it in their videos, that the reason why they are hurting people, the reason why they are kidnapping as many as they kidnap and kill as many as they kill, is to hurt the government, because they want the government to get their attention, and that they want the government. That's why they ask for ransom, and government pays. El-Rufai himself was quoted, and I read it by myself. When it started, El-Rufai said, government is sponsoring terrorism by paying. Bandits capture people, and government pays. So if government pays, that's an indirect policy.
But
the point I'm making is that as long, and Kunle Olawumi said it, he said the army can do nothing until they get orders from the commander-in-chief, which is the president. And as long as the president's body language is tolerant of these people who are operating and killing our Nigerians every day, this thing will continue. There's nothing anybody is going to do. So we just keep talking about it, but it's going to continue.
All right, Rev, you want to add something to that? About,
I want to say something, really, because it's like we are focusing more on insurgency. There are other criminal activities going on, but the reason why we are focusing more on insurgency is because of the rate in which Nigerians are being killed on a daily basis. And if you look at it very well, you will see the body language of our president is not ready to handle this thing holistically. Because when you build a house, one of these things you do is to fence the house and put a good gate to make sure that invaders does not come in.
Okay.
But the funny thing now is that our Nigeria is like a house that is built without fence. Even though there is fence but no gates. You deliberately move the fence, or you deliberately not fixing the fence, so that you allow certain people to come in. Because we are talking about insurgency, we're talking about this attack of terrorism. It's very simple to address it. But you see that the federal government is like they are not ready to address it holistically. Because when you open our borders and you allow these evil men to enter into this country, I call them, they are not visitors, they are strangers. To enter this country, that is say visa on arrival. They enter this country at a will with guns. They are taking over our forest. They are trying to take over the government. We are watching. It's a very pathetic situation. If government want to handle insecurity that's in the area of insurgency, it is it's just like what the man said. He said 15 hours is enough for the military to take over a community or an area. We have an army that is so powerful, so equipped, so well trained. What is our problem? It's like they are not powerful in the sight of these evil men. I think there's a political will that is not there.
Okay.
Because when there is a political will, all these issues we are talking every day, we just fall into the book of history.
All right, Chris.
Yes.
Let's look at it. So, are we saying that in dealing with insecurity, the best option under the present circumstances is political solution? If it's a political solution, what entails a political solution to this problem as against a military solution to this problem? All across the world, what we've seen people do where there are terrorist activities, insurgency and what have you, is the military, the combined forces that go all out to deal with this situation.
I think those who use the word political will and political solution are using a euphemism to tell the president to wake up and divorce himself from his religious interests in the security situation of Nigeria. So it's a euphemism to tell him, wake up and be president of Nigeria and deal with every situation you find in Nigeria with the law books. We have laws on terrorism. We didn't have it, we have it now. It was passed. Now, all over the world, terrorism is seen as an enemy. It's an enemy against the state. It's an attack on the national integrity and sovereignty of a state. The president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces has a responsibility. If not, he no longer has the legitimacy to remain as president. And that's why they are thinking of impeaching him now, for which I'm in full support in the National Assembly. Because he has lost his legitimacy by virtue of the fact that the president is, and he allows people to accuse him of culpability, because there's a lot of conspiracy theory out there. People are thinking that there is an agenda of Fulanization, and it's tainting the whole Fulanis. I mean, people like El-Rufai and people like Shehu Sani and all of that are Fulani. They are pan-Nigeria people. They are not after this kind of agenda. If the president has somehow got himself entangled because he was the patron of the Mieti Allah, and he has somehow got himself entangled and the Fakisi monster is beyond his hand, he should cry out. He cannot deal with the problem. He should accept that to Nigeria, and people are ready to deal with the problem. So when we're talking of political solution, who is with the president in this political tolerance? Everybody, as far as I know in this country, from military generals to political parties to national leaders, are all crying out against insecurity. For religious people, the Muslims are just as victims as much as Christians in these matters of insecurity. So the president has got himself entangled one way or another, and he should cry out to say, look, I'm in trouble, I need help. But he's not doing that. Can you imagine a president of a country, a governor of a state came out from a meeting with the president of a country to say to us that the president was not aware that there was security threat against his life?
Just imagine.
And the security threat didn't end as a threat, it was an action. That guard brigade, the critical guard brigade that guides the president, was attacked, and many Nigerians lost their life there. So by any whim, God forbid, the president could have lost his life there, and he wouldn't even be aware of what hit him. And we have a country that has a structured intelligence that are supposed to feed the president on a minutely basis what is going on in the country. Okay. The governor came to tell us the president was not aware there was a threat against his life. So what that tells you is that the president has become so overwhelmed that he is not even aware that he's a potential victim. Therefore, he needs help.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let me pause you there. If you just join us, State TMI Monday, X-raying the option of political solution to the insecurity challenges in the country ahead of the 2023 election. Let's get your perspectives on the political solution option in dealing with this issue before we talk about my next issue on this insecurity challenge.
Because when we talk about security, there are methods to handle security issues. They have three dimensions. Number one, the preventive, the punitive, and we have them like that. We are looking at the punitive, we are not looking at the preventive. Nigeria, per se, we are very reactive when issues of security comes up. Okay. We'll wait for something to happen before we take action. We are never proactive. One of the things I will say here, because we have been talking about security, the reason why we are boiling on the studio when it comes to security, we are not dealing with tomatoes or pepper. We are dealing with human lives. Every day we see Nigerians killed. Every day is like a normal thing. Yet 50 people died this morning. It's like it doesn't shake anything, which is very wrong. The value for life in Nigeria is very, very low because of government is not handling the issue of security very well. I think one of the areas where we can look at the picture of solution is for government, number one, to be sincere. Sincerity gives birth to good results. Because when the government is sincere and they are proactive, they can address this issue very, very well. And when there's political will. Secondly, we should check our borders. You see the way our borders are porous. As we are talking now, our borders are still porous. People can check into Nigeria without whatever. The other day we heard that the government gave a 1.something billion naira for SUV vehicle for security in Niger Republic. Even our police right now, as we are talking, go to the town, you see the vehicles policemen are using out of road. But we are taking SUV, not even military vehicles, SUV, executive vehicle to another country. We are supporting other countries when we have not been able to settle our own side of it. We should man our borders very well. Know who is coming in and who is not coming in. We should address that aspect. We should encourage the immigration to do their work very well, the customs to do their work very well. Those who are in charge of border control, they should be encouraged, they should be financed, and they should be manned in that aspect of it. Then in the issue of coming to the main thing in terms of insurgency, I know one day this thing will be a thing of the past. It's going to be a thing of the past when the government will wake up to its responsibility.
What is wrong in being your brother's keeper, Chris Ojekere? What's wrong in being your brother's keeper if the government of Nigeria decides to support her neighbors, whether Chad, Niger, Ghana, Cameroon? What's wrong with that? I mean, we see U.S. do that every now and then. Does that mean the U.S. doesn't need money to do the things they're supposed to do in the country? But they give out aids, they give out support, military support, like they're doing to Ukraine now. What's wrong with that?
The Bible, the same Bible that said you should be your brother's keeper, said, I do not mean that other men should be eased while you are burdened. We borrow from China and use it to take care of Niger, and Nigerian children pay for it. That is what is wrong with it. We are the most debt-incurred country right now in Africa, if my statistics are correct. We have no infrastructural facilities. We have no production base to support our borrowing. We are spending about 30% of our budget to service our debts. And a president is pulling out money from that miserable economy and is using it to be his brother's keeper so that his children can pay the debts. Now, did it also pass through due process? Nigerian money has become the money that he spends at will and then informs us later. Was it appropriated in 2022 budgets that we're going to spend 1.something billion to buy SUVs? Now, for God's sake, is it SUVs we used to fight insecurity? So the point is that the president has told us very clearly in the past, and nobody challenged him, when he has started his development of Niger Republic policy, that he has cousins there. And so if he has cousins there, we should see that in our mental picture as an extension of Nigerian territory. The president is limited by boundaries and by our Nigerian constitutions and by the National Assembly that appropriates our resources before he can spend it. So what you just have is a situation where everybody seems to be saying, Buhari, please do as worst as you can do and leave us in 2023.
Okay, let me proceed there.
Yeah, that's
let me proceed there, Chris.
Yes.
Yeah, let me proceed there. It's the TMI. Now, look at it. There's a feeling that there's so much emphasis on the president, and then we are leaving the state governors out of the conversation, out of the equation, because state governors have access to a certain kind of fund called security vote that they decide how to spend it, when to spend it, and what to spend it on. And in most cases, we don't seem to have a foothold on how this money is being expended. Can't we hold even state governors also responsible for these failings in the insecurity situation that we have in the country against the background of the humongous security votes that they collect? Let me get your take on this.
Okay, you in that aspect, you see, when the head fails, it's very difficult for the leg to stand.
Okay.
The federal government is failing in the aspect of security. So the whole burden is coming down to the states. And the governors, they don't have control when it comes to the security architecture, like the army, like the police. The federal government is in control of the army and the police. The federal government is already failing. And the primary purpose of government is to protect the lives of the citizen. They are already failing in that aspect. As long as they are failing, the thing is boiling down to the state. And the burden is becoming heavier, even with the governors. You are giving them money, security vote, fine. They will tell you that they have used this money for this, because the burden is becoming bigger and bigger. Some people said they are not using the money very well, because like security vote is not accountable for. But when you meet the governors, they will tell you that they are using the money to their own best strength to cover the security lapses in the country, in their own states. And on that ground, we personally, I will advocate for state police, community police, so that they can manage the system very well and use the money very well.
Okay.
I think that is my own take on that aspect.
All right, Chris, yeah.
Yes, I very much agree with all the points he has made, except also to add this. Now, I want people to begin. That's why I tell you that when I'm delineating, I don't delineate according to geographical zones, according to the crime.
Yeah.
If you tell me armed robbers, local kidnappers are running rampant in the state,
yeah,
I will tell the state governor he has no excuse. But security is a national threat against our sovereignty. The state governor, for instance, does not have the permission to import AK-47s. Or we find Fulani young men carrying AK-47s in the bush. And we have the federal police Some of them are even be apprehended and submitted to the federal police. We know by experience that they are released the next day. Now, if the state government now goes out of his way to say you want to pump the security votes he has to importing AK-47, that state will be declared as a state of emergency within the next minute. That's why I say, as long as you have a Nebuchadnezzar sitting in a place where you should have King David sitting, you are going to continue to have this problem, because the policy, by body language and by intention, is we run a federal system where 52.something% of our resources is in the federal government that is amorphous. Then we have states, and that's why it's talking of state police, where we have the real people and the real structure having as little, and the same thing affect our laws and affect our policies. So that we use the word federalism, but we run actually a unitary system of government. The command and control mentality is still there. The commissioner of police cannot take orders from the state government, even if he gets security information right now that 100 Fulani boys are in the bush with AK-47 there. Is he going to ask our vigilante boys to go and withstand those people with their double barrel and cock and shoot gun, locally made pistols, which he has the authority to authorize for local security? So this is the situation people don't know. Political opponents use it. No. The truth of the matter is that if you give a man a position and you refuse to give him the power and the authority of that position, you are mocking.
Okay. But there are complaints that in spite of these seeming challenges, like people always say that security is within the ambit of the federal government because a governor, for example, state chief executive does not have control over the commissioner of police, the brigade commander, or the air officer, DS and stuff like that. This has to come from the federal government, as it were. At the level of community policing, we have seen states put together some sort of a ragtag security structure just to be able to checkmate what is happening at the local level. But these local security, either you hear them complain of not being paid their stipends, or they are not even on any stipends at all, or you find that the tools and equipment that they need to be able to even do the little that they can, they don't have access to it. Isn't that a challenge on the part of the governors in terms of their corresponding response to what is supposed to happen to tackle insecurity?
Like the one you just mentioned in the area of supplementing, synergizing with the police force and the army, which we call the state vigilante. Okay. You see different states now, they are coming up with their own security outfits to supplement with the federal government. Since the governor per se in that state cannot control the police 100%, cannot control the army, so they are coming up with their own to make sure that these people are under their own control. In the area of using vigilante to tackle insecurity, I think I will also advocate that the governor should do everything in his own purview to equip these ones, because you have the right now, they are under your control, to equip them, to pay them very well, to an extent, to encourage them, give them a booster, a kind of morale, to make them do their job very well. Because if you bring them in and they are not well taken care of, it's like 10 and 10 pence. They will still go back to the normal issue. Let me digress a bit, sir, in the area of insecurity, because we are looking at insurgency. When we talk about insecurity in television or wherever, our mind, 80% we talk on insurgency. Yeah. Talk on terrorism.
Because that seems to be the major...
yes, terrorism in criminology, terrorism is the highest criminal act in the state. Okay. But you see, insecurity has different branches. And there's something that is about to happen. If the government is not proactive, because when Boko Haram came up the other day, they didn't come up as terrorists. They came up as people who were doing one or two things. They were not, it was not well managed. It metamorphosed into terrorism. And you see it playing everyday killing. There's something that is about to happen. The government is not sensitive to address this issue. There's an army that is already in the training field that the government is not seeing. The youth. You've removed them from their environment. This ASU strike of a thing. It's about 6 months now. The school environment is their environment. You remove them from them, and it is said that the idol's mind is the devil's workshop. Indirectly, you are giving them to the devil for recruitment, and the devil is already giving them all the necessary skills, and they are about to finish their work. If federal government does not take this matter very, very serious, I'm telling you, a time will come, and it is not far. This army will come out more dangerous than the terrorism we are talking about. The havoc they will cause in the land, the government will not recover from it 20 years. Look at the NSAS, the few days they came out, and even till now, the system have not recovered. And we are talking about ASU. This is how to bridge what? Insecurity.
Okay.
Because insecurity does not come on its own. Negligence to so many important issues can breed insecurity. And I want to really use this medium to appeal to the federal government to look at the state of ASU, that is the schools. Do everything possible to resolve this matter within a shortest time, so that this student will go back to school, so that the enemy, the devil himself, because everything that happens, he says is the devil, will not use them as a tool for destruction. All
right, interesting. Interesting. We're heading towards the 2023 election, and insecurity seems to be a major talking point. I started by saying that when you just think that, okay, we're trying to get over an incident that has happened, something else springs up. But in recent time, it looks like in terms of grassroots security, Amotekun seems to be having, a very robust approach in dealing with this issue. I saw recently a video, I think it was our correspondent in Ondo State that brought that report, where over 100 people were found in a truck moving all the way from the north to Ondo State. I don't know what you mean.
Carrying charms and dangerous weapons.
Yes. Yes.
And they were intercepted. You see, they say you are your own best security. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. People don't know that criminals take their business as their job, as their business. So the way you wake up in the morning and you are thinking of what to do in the studio and your head is when the criminal is thinking that. So if you ignore that they exist in the society and you think that one way or another, you do that to your peril. Ondo had to wait. The governor of Ondo is the chairman of the group that brought Amotekun to being. And Ondo ought to be the most secure state in the south, because haven't given that kind of initiative and it was working, you should have understood that it is a threat to those who want to, and you are the first target. So they had to wait until they sacrificed a lot of people in the Catholic Church, but thank God that it's never too late. So they have woken up to their responsibility. A similar thing should go on in all of the states in the south, and indeed in the north. We can no longer pretend that government is interested in the federal government is interested in the security of Nigeria, because the federal government is not even aware, by the president's own admittance, that there's a security threat on his own life. So if a man is not aware that he himself is even threatened, then how could you, by the highest stretch of imagination, think that he's aware that you are under security threat? Each state should wake up. Whatever little thing you can do, if it is whistle you will buy for certain people to put them in strategic places. They say if you see something, say something. And then you have a security network that is connected to a center where you have any security threat or information. You rally around. People should wake up until this insecurity threat is over, which I believe will be over after this presidential election. What we are begging Buhari is to give us an election. When there is an election, and then the new president comes in, Nigeria's configuration in terms of security issues will change. The fact is that there is just so much that you can drive people to the wall. And you have to come to face the reality that the first law of nature is self-preservation. People will live. People will protect their lands. So Nigeria is too big for anybody to think that by any schemings you can hold Nigeria to hostage. Nigeria has too many people that pray and God hears. As corrupt as we are, we have also the best Christians who pray and God hears. And God still rules in the affairs of men. So you cannot sit down and configure in your mind to say, when we put this strategy in place, I'll put that strategy in place, we put Nigeria in our pocket. It's not possible. So the truth of the matter is that we will have to face that situation. But in the meantime, each state government should put on patrol. And I tell you, to be very honest with you, I'm very happy with what is going on in Edo State. I mean, shortly after the NSAS, we knew the insecurity situation. In broad daylight, on every street. And then these boys were brought in, we call Edo vigilante groups. I mean, we're only worried now about what we hear at the federal. In almost every corner of Edo, the testimony is the same. People are sleeping now at night, and you could go about your business in the day. I mean, skirmishes still happen. They will always happen. Even in America, you see how people who rob and all of that. But it is controlled to a very large extent. And that's good enough. But we are saying that the one that is beyond the state government, the federal government should wake up to its responsibility. Stop sponsoring your political agents in the state to start to turn us against our state government. We are sleeping. I can put my money in my pocket now and travel with 100,000 and cross Benin, and nobody's going to hold me and take my money from me. So that we are happy with. But in our forest, where our economy is, occupants, assailants, invaders have come to, and they are holding AK-47. They all come from the same stock. When they are arrested, they are Fulanis. And the president is a Fulani. And he should be able to call his Fulani people and tell them, everybody is pointing to you. Why? The whole nation can't hate you.
Those who are threatening him.
Yes.
Those who are threatening to kidnap him.
Fulanis.
Yes. Those who are. So how is he going to reach out to them when they are already crossed with him according to their own applicants?
He has an ambassador for terrorism, Sheikh Gumi. Sheikh Gumi reaches these people. And Sheikh Gumi's assistant had withdrawn from this negotiation with the train bombing in Kaduna. He said people were blackmailing him and all of that. But Sheikh Gumi reaches them. And Sheikh Gumi is giving some suggestions. It could be part of the strategy, we don't know. But it's Sheikh Gumi that suggested that we need a political solution. Sheikh Gumi had threatened us before that if these people were not settled, Nigeria would be ungovernable. I don't know when he suddenly now realized that what we need is a political solution. I think, in my own conspiracy theory, that as they say in Edo, the thing done over them. You cannot, Chebe said, they said you cannot wipe out a community. 2 or 3 people must escape. You cannot, whatever you think you are doing, you have not come to the core Nigeria. You are operating the fringes because there is a porous border because of language uniformity between Chad, Niger, Senegal, Mali, part of Cameroon. The Hausa language or the Fulani language, the Kanuri language, they consider themselves brothers. So people move around freely there. And that's why they have been able, but every time they want to operate in Lagos and Ogo, they are arrested in hordes. Because people would exist. People will live in their ancestral land and they will exist. So it is not the right policy. It is not the policy of terror and killing people, as they said in their video. It's what will get attention. It won't get our attention. We are educated, civilized people here. We sit down and we reason. And we live by mutual benefits. So you cannot come with the mentality of domination and you think you are going to get, you can't. If you give him another 4 years, it will still be the same situation. So the point we are making is that let him guarantee us a 2023 election. I'm happy that you even have northern candidates. That will tell him how liberal Nigerians are. We're not talking of secession here. We're talking of transition, democratic transition, so that we have a better deal. Yes.
Okay. All right. On a final note, it's been said a number of times that one of the major issues that will determine the 2023 election is the issue of insecurity. I'd like you to ventilate your views along this line, Reverend Azeke.
Nothing thrives in the absence of security. If there is no security in this country, there will be no election. Let us not cover it. If we allow things to go the way things are going now, it's going to be very difficult for there to be a peaceful election, 2023. It is high time for the government to begin to address the issue of insecurity at this particular time, so that there will be, we're talking about transition. When there is no security, there is no transition. So the government should do everything at its own disposal to make sure that there is security in this country. If you go to the airport right now, you see the way Nigerians are living this country in their thousands because of insecurity. Where are they going? There's no secure place elsewhere. They just want to live. The government should do everything and they should address security from the grassroots. The government should be very honest because security has to do with honesty. They should address it from the grassroots. there should be a kind of strong awareness. There should be education. They should educate the citizens on security. We talk about your brother, be your brother's keeper and your neighbor. They should take security to the grassroots. Tell everyone, it's not about the gun, it's not about the uniform. It's about talking to everybody on the issue of security and the importance and value for life. If we have value for life and everybody comes to the round table as security stakeholders, and we make sure we protect our side, because the issue of don't defend yourself, like what he said, self-defense is the first law of life. Everybody is designed by God to defend his or herself. You just got to defend yourself. In any means you can defend yourself, because you have an enemy who is coming to take your life. Yeah. So when we begin to educate our people on personal security, is very, very important. And make much awareness, the way the government did in the days of COVID-19. Give strong awareness, a grassroots awareness, even to the hinterlands. On security, to an extent.
All right. Chris, final take from you along those lines.
Yes, there will be an election. Nobody is going to stop our election. There will be a transition. Nobody will stop it. There will be intervention for an election to happen, because you cannot disrupt that 4 years transition in Nigeria. It will spell what we don't want to imagine. We are not going to continue to allow in the South people to run roughshod on us. We have a right to existence, and we have a right to our existence. So the Nigerian Constitution says that after every 4 years, there should be an election. If you don't want an election, what are you calling for? You have called for, not you, the person in charge who should allow an election. What is he calling for? He has disrupted the Constitution. That's treason. He's calling for secession, because we want to do an election. So there is going to be election every 4 years. Anybody who thinks he's going to have an agenda to create a seeming state of insecurity in Nigeria and then begin to propose alternatives to election, we have sworn to democracy in this country, and that's what we are going to have. So there's going to be an election in 2023, and we're going to have a transition, and this nightmare will end.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to when that will happen, but until that happens, we know what the situation is in the country as it relates to insecurity in every part of the country. To travel on our roads, it's very, scary. Once you make the move, your family are back home praying and fasting for you, and the calls just keep coming until you get to your destination. Look at the incident that happened recently in the Southeast, where 2 Nollywood actors were kidnapped. Well, the kidnappers said, well, they were not the people they were actually looking for, but the experience, the ordeal, the travails is something that they didn't want to remember any time. But that's just the way it is. But I believe strongly, if we have the political will to deal with this issue, the Nigerian army, the armed forces, have the capacity, have the experience, have the skills, have the knowledge, have the wherewithal to decimate any foreigner or any offending body or group in this country. But we've got to explore the political will to ensure that that is done. Let me thank Reverend Sheriff Azake for coming, and Comrade Christopher Jacob, thank you for coming. We'll take a break and we'll be back with you with the rest of the program TMI Monday. Don't go away.